modelo de negocio. Hay otra compañía, eso también lo supimos el fin de semana, que se llama Warner Bros. Discovery, que obviamente tiene una taquilla importante con las películas. Creo que el mercado de las películas podría volver, por eso es interesante lo que nosotros estamos viendo desde el punto de vista de Disney y de otras compañías como esta de Warner Bros. Y hay alguna otra cosa que me llama muchísimo la atención, como es el hecho de que yo tenía muchos años que no iba al cine. Recientemente fue a ver el estreno de Superman, conseguí el cine, no digamos que abarrotado, pero ligeramente lleno, y pienso que hay un renacer. Recuérdese usted que al cierre del día de hoy tenemos lo que serían los resultados de AMC, que es esta compañía que lamentablemente quedó en el limbo durante la pandemia, y quienes la han reflotado enormemente han sido los inversionistas individuales que han apostado, como yo les digo, en sentido contrario de lo que muchos inversionistas institucionales han hecho en ese sentido. Yo creo que hay unas críticas interesantes también que forman parte de esa relación que hay entre China y los Estados Unidos por parte del gobierno chino a través de esos chips. Eso lo vimos en la prensa también, que está exportando Nvidia. Nvidia está exportando a China unos chips que se llaman los H20 y China dice que tienen algún tipo de espionaje. Así que es bien importante e interesante porque recuérdese que desde el punto de vista de lo que puede entrar a China, ahí esto puede causar algún tipo de problema. De otro punto de vista, también tenemos algo interesante que les quiero comentar el día de hoy, que no quiero dejar de lado, y yo quiero ponerles aquí probablemente uno de los gráficos al respecto, que tiene que ver con las compañías que empiezan a recomprar sus acciones más que proporcionalmente. Las compañías están reportando comprar en más de 1 trillón, yo sé que no se dice así, obviamente en español, acciones este mismo año, porque recuérdense que ellos tienen que tener algún tipo de permiso para comprar sus propias acciones. Y obviamente eso es interesante porque en ese ranking lideran Apple, Alphabet, que es Google, JP Morgan, Bank of America, que es Banco de América, y Morgan Stanley. Y yo creo que esto forma parte, para que usted también lo vea, que independientemente de cómo nosotros estamos observando que el mercado esté sobre recalentado, estos manejadores de dinero están apostándole a que el mercado siga subiendo, y por eso, con su exceso de dinero, como es legal, ellos compran acciones de la misma compañía. Recuérdense que cuando una compañía compra acciones de la misma compañía, eso entra dentro de lo que se llama acciones en tesorería, y básicamente son proporcionalmente, dependiendo a cada nivel, entregadas en lo que sería la dinámica de la compañía. Cuando usted es accionista de una compañía, usted proporcionalmente es dueño de todos los activos de la compañía, valga la redundancia, de esas acciones de tesorería que también son parte de lo que serían los activos de la compañía. Y eso indudablemente nos pone a pensar de que ellos invierten creyendo que van a obtener rendimientos, y a la vez, al momento de invertir en sus propias acciones, es porque estiman que el precio de esas acciones podría subir. Esos factores claves están obviamente todo lo que tiene que ver con los beneficios y recortes fiscales, que obviamente ya han podido negociar algunas de las compañías corporativas, y que efectivamente, a pesar de lo que sucede con los aranceles, sienten que hay una especie de reglas claras, además de que el hecho, y yo creo que también eso es importante, cuando yo reduzco las acciones en circulación de la compañía, yo elevo la posibilidad de tener ganancias por acción, porque ahora las reparto entre un número menor de acciones, porque ya esas acciones no están en circulación, las estoy eliminando y las estoy colocando en tesorería, lo que indiscutiblemente impulsa las cotizaciones, no solamente por la especulación, sino por la neta matemática que esto puede tener. Y eso es algo que no le debemos dejar de prestar atención, por una visión positiva que indica que la economía estadounidense, lejos de estar en esa caída que muchos vaticinaban, entra en un elemento muy interesante de cara a lo que puede venir en el trimestre 3, como le digo, el trimestre 4. Cuando estamos llegando prácticamente al final del programa, una de las cosas que también me llama la atención es indudablemente qué pasará durante las próximas horas, que se estima que sea hoy lunes, con respecto a la posición del presidente Trump, que en algunos momentos podría participar y hablar, y que lamentablemente en ese momento nos dejaría saber lo que va a hacer con los indigentes en los Estados Unidos, pero probablemente abriría un margen de preguntas interesantes que formen parte de esa dinámica hacia futuro. Bueno, los dejo hasta acá cuando son las 9:55, 9:54 algo de la mañana, hora del este de los Estados Unidos. Dentro de pronto tenemos más información. Volveré con ustedes a las 19 horas que se den alrededor de la 1 de la tarde hora del este de los Estados Unidos, donde comentaremos lo que sucede con esta posibilidad de que el presidente Trump nos deje saber no solamente lo que va a pasar con los indigentes en Washington, sino cualquier cosa a la cual nos tiene acostumbrado cuando se abre la parte de preguntas y respuestas. Los dejo con más programación que tenemos y regreso con ustedes más tarde. No olviden, buen día y buen negocio. Adelante.
Donald Trump, que llega a la cumbre de La Haya para ser la peor pesadilla europea. No salimos de una y entramos en otra. Hay que redefinir el artículo 5. Vamos, ¿cómo? Está pensando sobre todo Sánchez. Redefinir el artículo 5 con un pero. ¿Cuánto hay y cuánto paga cada uno de los países? Ha llegado Mr. Marshall, ha llegado el imperialista, ha llegado el rey de los europeos y Rutte se ha puesto de rodillas. Gracias a ti, los europeos estamos gastando a expuertas. Gracias a ti, en una posición de Rutte que da absoluta vergüenza ajena. Porque Rutte es un perdedor de elecciones que entonces han dicho, vente a la OTAN, que es parte de la fiesta. Y ahí llevaron a Rutte para que no le faltara trabajo. Le han puesto a un europeo para que le lama los zapatos al estadounidense. Y entonces ha venido el estadounidense, se ha puesto la gorra, ha hecho... Bienvenido, Mr. Marshall. Quita, leche, quita, ¿no? No, debería pensar, qué pesado. Con la sonrisita esta que le deben enseñar en el club. ¿Te hace gracia que tengamos que destinar dinero de la educación y de la sanidad a que tú compres armas? ¿De dónde sale el puñetero dinero? De ti. El 5% es imposible para Europa. ¿Dónde está el objetivo? Aquí. El 5%. Todo esto, 5%. Así tenéis narices para decir cómo vais a sacar el 5%. Decid la verdad una puñetera vez.
¿Qué es Bitcoin? Hoy vamos a explicarles qué es exactamente Bitcoin, explicándoles los conceptos básicos para que entiendan esta criptomoneda de la que todo el mundo lleva años hablando. Esta explicación les servirá para saber también qué son exactamente las criptomonedas y cómo funcionan, para que puedan tener una noción un poco menos técnica de cómo funciona todo esto y a lo que nos referimos con cada término. Bitcoin es una criptomoneda o moneda virtual, concretamente la primera que fue desarrollada. Es la criptomoneda que le ha marcado el camino a todas las demás que llegaron después utilizando su tecnología. Esta tecnología es la cadena de bloques o tecnología blockchain y también se utiliza para otras cosas. La primera de las criptomonedas fue creada por Satoshi Nakamoto, que es el seudónimo que corresponde a una persona que nadie sabe exactamente quién es, aunque sí que es cierto que ha habido muchas teorías. Esta persona publicó en 2009 un artículo en el que describía un sistema de pagos P2P al que llamó Bitcoin. Al cabo de unos meses, él mismo publicó la primera versión del software que permite gestionar la red de la moneda y que además empieza a interactuar con los primeros interesados en foros. La cantidad total de bitcoins que se emiten cada año está determinada por su algoritmo y pasa lo mismo con el resto de criptomonedas. Bitcoin está desarrollado para que cada 4 años se reduzca por 2 su producción y para que solo se emitan un total de 21 millones de bitcoins. Después simplemente dejarán de crearse. Esto es una diferencia fundamental con las monedas convencionales, puesto que los bancos modifican su valor a su libre albedrío. Por lo tanto, las monedas se pueden devaluar, mientras que Bitcoin quiere ofrecer algo más de estabilidad. En definitiva, entre los usos más destacados de Bitcoin cabe mencionar los siguientes, como por ejemplo pagar utilizando estas propias criptomonedas, obtener intereses por los bitcoins que poseas, algo similar al concepto de un depósito bancario, también obtener un préstamo utilizando como garantía tus bitcoins, cubrir tu exposición financiera con derivados en mercados regulados y por último obtener réditos de inversión mediante la compraventa de bitcoins al ser un activo que teóricamente tiende a revalorizarse en un escenario de demanda constante.
¿Sabes lo importante de tener la mejor información para la toma de decisiones? ¿Sabes? En esas reuniones privadas en las que se ve una información clave para poder luego tomar esa decisión. Es lo que queremos en el club al que te invitamos ya, en el club en el que Negocios Televisión lanza para que puedas tener toda la información, la mejor información y tomar las mejores decisiones. ¿Cómo crees que va a evolucionar el euro en un entorno en el que todo el mundo inversor piensa que camina hacia la paridad? ¿Cómo le va a afectar el fenómeno Trump? ¿Cómo le va a afectar al conjunto europeo? Inscríbete aquí abajo.
Muy buenas tardes, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos de nuevo a Negocios Televisión después de esa pequeña pausa publicitaria. Muy pendientes, como les digo, del acto que va a comenzar ahora en breve momento de Donald Trump, que se espera que va a hablar, esperemos que hable, que comparezca el presidente americano en el despacho de la Casa Blanca para abordar uno de los temas que está marcando la tensión informativa en el día de hoy. Y es que, como lo saben ustedes, se lo venimos contando aquí en Negocios Televisión, Donald Trump busca acabar con la violencia y los robos en Washington. El presidente americano, Donald Trump, ha declarado este lunes por la mañana en su red social Truth Social, ahora ustedes lo van a poder ver en un tweet, en un mensaje que ha puesto, diciendo el día de la liberación va a ser hoy en Washington D.C, prometiendo recuperar la capital y eliminar el desorden que hay actualmente. Cito literalmente lo que dice ese mensaje. El día de la liberación en Washington ha llegado, recuperaremos nuestra capital, es lo que ha escrito el jefe de Estado estadounidense. Washington D.C. será liberada hoy. El crimen, el salvajismo y la inmundicia y la escoria desaparecerán. Voy a hacer que nuestra capital sea grande de nuevo. Se acabaron los días de matar o herir sin piedad a inocentes. Arreglé rápidamente la frontera, diciendo Donald Trump, 0 ilegales en los últimos 3 meses. Washington es lo siguiente. Gracias por su atención en este asunto, presidente Donald Trump. Es lo que añadía en esa publicación. Además, también el presidente americano anunciaba la semana pasada, que el crimen en el distrito especial está totalmente fuera de control del distrito de Washington, afirmando que podría ponerlo bajo jurisdicción federal. Lo que sí se venía hablando a lo largo del día de hoy, se lo hemos venido contando aquí, que apuntaba el Washington Post, era que el FBI empezaba a enviar patrullas allí para intentar controlar, como les digo, el orden, poner estabilidad social y acabar con esos hurtos, con esos robos y con esa violencia, donde Donald Trump en principio señalaba al Washington Post a raíz de funcionarios que no querían dar su nombre, le decía al medio americano que Donald Trump ponía el foco sobre todo en las personas sin techo, que podrían venir de ahí la violencia. Vamos a ver, estamos muy pendientes de que comience y que comparezca esa rueda de prensa del presidente americano. Bueno, pues aparte de eso también, mira, ven ustedes ahora mismo esa imagen, en breve momento comenzará. Se están preparando también los compañeros de prensa. Como saben, pueden seguir dicha rueda de prensa, la vamos a seguir aquí en directo, íntegra, y aparte también de ello, hay un paralelo en nuestras redes sociales, en YouTube, donde también pueden seguir la comparecencia de Donald Trump, del presidente de los Estados Unidos de América, pues bueno, donde va a hablar, va a explicar qué postura va a tomar su administración para acabar con la violencia y los robos, como le digo, en Washington. Aparte de eso, Donald Trump también ha hablado en el día de hoy, ha puesto otro tuit, ha puesto otro mensaje en Truth Social, en su red social, donde Donald Trump confirmaba que los aranceles hacen, ojo a esto, a Estados Unidos fuerte y rico. El presidente americano ha afirmado que los aranceles impuestos por él a otros países el pasado 7 de agosto están haciendo a Estados Unidos fuerte y rico. Trump también afirmaba que las medidas están añadiendo miles de millones al presupuesto americano. Tanto el secretario de Tesoro de Estados Unidos, como lo hemos venido diciendo aquí en esta casa, en Negocios Televisión, a lo largo del día de hoy, Scott Bessent afirmaba que es probable que los aranceles se reduzcan a medida que la administración Trump concluya acuerdos comerciales y reduzca su desequilibrio comercial actual. Continúan, eso sí, las negociaciones con varios socios comerciales como la Unión Europea, China o incluso también Japón, tras las firmas de acuerdos preliminares por parte de Washington. Scott Bessent, que, como le hemos venido diciendo aquí, comparaba los aranceles con un bloque de hielo que poco a poco se vaya derritiendo y poco a poco esos aranceles se vayan quitando y vayan bajando para, eso sí, llegar a acuerdos importantes entre Estados Unidos con esos países que tienen ahora mismo aranceles por parte de la administración de Donald Trump. También contarles, aparte de esto, otro de los puntos claves del día de hoy es que, bueno, muchos países y también, por ejemplo, escuchábamos en el día de hoy a Macron criticar el fallecimiento de Israel, que habían matado, las fuerzas de defensa de Israel habían matado a periodistas que habían sido asesinados en la zona de Gaza. Bueno, pues les tengo que decir que ahora Starmer, al igual que la ONU y otros organismos, se suman a esta denuncia. Starmer asegura estar muy preocupado por los ataques de Israel a periodistas. El primer ministro británico ha expresado en el día de hoy graves preocupaciones por los continuos ataques contra periodistas que informan desde la franja de Gaza, según compartió su portavoz en una declaración esta misma tarde. Los periodistas decían, comentaba el portavoz del primer ministro de Gran Bretaña, de Starmer, decía: los periodistas que cubren conflictos gozan de protección bajo el derecho internacional humanitario y deben poder informar con independencia y sin temor. Israel debe garantizar que puedan realizar su trabajo con seguridad. Cuando se le preguntó sobre las acusaciones hechas por la Fuerza de Defensa de Israel de que uno de los periodistas, en principio, estaría vinculado con Hamas, el portavoz de Reino Unido del gobierno de Starmer afirmó que tales afirmaciones deben ser investigadas, ya que, dice, debe ser investigada de forma exhaustiva y de manera independiente. Por lo tanto, no, en principio no se cree, al igual que Reino Unido, no se cree, al igual que la ONU u otros organismos, otros países, no se cree esa justificación que ha dado la Fuerza de Defensa israelí tras el asesinato de, como les digo, cuatro periodistas de Al Jazeera, del medio, compañeros que han sido ejecutados por parte de las fuerzas de Israel. Aparte de eso, también le tenemos que contar otra noticia importante, y eso sí, relacionada con el conflicto de Ucrania. Y es que, ojo esto, Zelensky ha hablado en el día de hoy sobre las sanciones a Rusia en una llamada con Modi. El presidente ucraniano ha mantenido en la mañana de hoy una conversación telefónica con el primer ministro de la India y ha afirmado que han mantenido una discusión detallada sobre las sanciones contra Rusia, entre otros temas también puestos encima de la mesa en dicha reunión. Decía Zelensky en su cuenta de Twitter: he señalado que es necesario limitar la exportación de energía rusa, en particular de petróleo, para reducir su potencial y su capacidad de financiar la continuación de esta guerra. Es importante que todo líder con influencia tangible sobre Rusia envíe la señal correspondiente a Moscú de que hay que presionarlo. Es lo que escribía Zelensky en X, en su red social de Twitter. Sus comentarios, así, coinciden con la imposición por parte de Washington de aranceles punitivos a la India debido a la compra de energía rusa por parte de dicho país, presidido por, como les digo, el primer ministro indio, Modi. También decía en su red social, en X, decía Zelensky que acordamos planificar una reunión personal en septiembre durante la Asamblea General de la ONU y trabajar en un intercambio de visitas. Por lo tanto, en septiembre tendría lugar otra nueva reunión de forma presencial entre Zelensky y Modi. Pero, eso sí, estos dos mandatarios que en el día de hoy se han sentado para hablar de muchos temas, pero uno de ellos es que, bueno, sobre las sanciones a Rusia, sobre todo en el tema de la compra de petróleo, como le venimos diciendo en esta casa en Negocios Televisión. Aparte de eso, también Zelensky ha comparecido en el día de hoy, también diciendo que, asegurando que Rusia no debe, ojo a esto, recibir ninguna recompensa futura de cara a la reunión, a las conversaciones que mantengan el viernes Donald Trump y también Putin en Alaska, una reunión para la que quedan 4 días y que aquí en Negocios Televisión, como ustedes saben, podrán estar informados de lo que se diga y lo que acontezca en dicho acto, del que está muy pendiente no solo Ucrania, sino también los países europeos que tienen ojo visor con lo que vaya a salir de esa reunión entre ambos mandatarios, entre Trump y Putin, entre Putin y Trump. Bueno, pues como le venía diciendo, el presidente ucraniano Volodymyr Zelensky, que ha declarado en el día de hoy que Rusia ha iniciado, ojo a esto, 137 combates en las últimas 24 horas y ha utilizado más de 1.000 bombas aéreas y casi 1.400 drones de ataque contra Ucrania en una sola semana, en lo que apunta Zelensky. Además, dice, Rusia se niega a detener la matanza y por lo tanto no debe recibir, es lo que decía Zelensky, no debe recibir Rusia ninguna recompensa ni tampoco ningún beneficio. Es lo que declaraba Zelensky, como le digo, presumiblemente en referencia a la próxima reunión entre Donald Trump y Putin el viernes en Alaska. Zelensky insistía también en que el Kremlin no cederá ante concesiones y debe afrontar una mayor presión global. Agradecía también, eso sí, también esas declaraciones en Twitter diciendo que agradecía a todos los aliados de Kiev, de Ucrania, y recalcaba que la paz mediante la fuerza es la única paz posible con Rusia, que Rusia no entiende otra cosa que no sea llegar a la paz a través de la violencia, no entiende las buenas palabras. Por lo tanto, Zelensky, que como les digo, asegura que Rusia no debe recibir ninguna recompensa y que no se debe quedar con ese territorio conquistado desde que comenzara el conflicto en febrero de 2022, ese territorio que ha ido conquistando poco a poco con el paso de los días y el paso de los años y de los meses. Rusia, por lo tanto, debería, al igual que piensa la Unión Europea y países de Europa, devolverse ese territorio a quien le pertenece, a Zelensky y a Ucrania, a los ucranianos. También, aparte de eso, les tenemos que contar que Estados Unidos está trabajando en la reunión entre Putin y Zelensky. El vicepresidente estadounidense J.D. Vance ha declarado en las últimas horas que Estados Unidos está trabajando para concretar una reunión entre el presidente ucraniano Zelensky y el presidente ruso Putin. Sin embargo, declaró a Fox News, donde le hicieron la entrevista, que no sería productivo programar la reunión antes de que Putin se reúna con el presidente americano, con Donald Trump, el 15 de agosto. Por otra parte, Vance, el vicepresidente estadounidense, también ha afirmado que habló con el gobierno ucraniano la mañana del domingo, pero que Trump tendrá que obligar, ojo a esto, al presidente Putin y al presidente Zelensky a reunirse para resolver sus diferencias. Vance se negó también a comentar en dicha entrevista con Fox News sobre sus ambiciones para las elecciones presidenciales de 2028 y los rumores de que podría elegir al secretario de Estado Marco Rubio como compañero de fórmula. Decía precisamente J.D. Vance, si hacemos un buen trabajo, la política se resolverá sola, añadiendo que es demasiado pronto para pensar tan a largo plazo, ya que 2028 queda bastante lejos en el tiempo, que de momento está Donald Trump y que acaba de comenzar prácticamente su mandato en su segundo gobierno, su segunda vez que gobierna Donald Trump en la Casa Blanca. También contarles que Rusia afirma que sus tropas han avanzado en los últimos días en la región de Donetsk. Las fuerzas militares rusas han anunciado en las últimas horas que unidades de su grupo centro habían tomado el control de varias zonas autoproclamadas, es decir, que se han proclamado propiamente República Popular de Donetsk, cuando antiguamente era Donetsk. Bueno, pues esa zona, dice Rusia que sus tropas avanzan en dicha región y que van tomando más territorio. Esto ocurre en el mismo día que prácticamente, como le venimos diciendo, comienza la cuenta atrás para esa reunión que tenga lugar en Alaska el 15 de agosto, sí, este viernes, entre Putin y Donald Trump. Por lo tanto, se sigue tensionando la cuerda por parte de Rusia, sigue con su idea de seguir expandiéndose en el territorio ucraniano. También hay que decirle que el anuncio publicado en el canal de Telegram del Ejército ha descrito la medida como resultado de operaciones activas. Por lo tanto, muy activo el plan que tiene Rusia y no sale de esa idea de seguir conquistando y avanzando terreno. Por lo tanto, también contarles que las Fuerzas Aéreas de Ucrania informaban también en los últimos momentos de que la fuerza rusa había lanzado en los últimos, la noche del domingo al lunes, 71 drones de diversos tipos durante, como les decía, la madrugada del domingo al lunes en territorio ucraniano. La noticia llega mientras, como les decía, Washington y Moscú se preparan para la reunión de su jefe de Estado en Alaska. Veremos qué se sale, qué sacamos en claro de esa reunión, qué sacan también en claro tanto Donald Trump como Putin y sobre todo, muy expectante, tanto Ucrania como los países europeos, porque quieren tener voz importante, tomar posición, mejor dicho, en esa reunión, aunque no estén físicamente, quieren que se les tenga en cuenta de cara a qué va a ocurrir con lo siguiente después de que se llegue a un alto al fuego y qué ocurriría después con Ucrania. Bueno, pues toda esta es la información que debe conocer ahora mismo, a esta hora de la tarde, cuando son las 4:15 de la tarde, hora en España, en Madrid. Vamos a hacer una pequeña pausa publicitaria, pero no se mueva, porque enseguida volvemos aquí en Negocios Televisión, como les digo, para escuchar a Donald Trump hablar sobre la violencia y cómo va a acabar con ella en Washington D.C.
Todo propietario tiene miedo a alquilar sus inmuebles. Ya no es así. En SEAG te ofrecen su garantía de alquiler, con la que puedes alquilar tu vivienda y en caso de impago podrás seguir cobrando mes a mes de forma indefinida hasta recuperar el inmueble. No tendrás que preocuparte del proceso jurídico porque desde SEAG se ocupan de todo, incluso de los actos de vandalismo. Además te protegen contra el subarriendo y la ocupación. Cuentan con prestaciones, tanto para alquiler de larga estancia, temporal, habitaciones, locales, incluso con alquileres ya en curso. ¿Por qué vender tu vivienda si la puedes alquilar para siempre? Alquila tranquilo. SEAG responde.
Recibes un mensaje alarmante de tu inquilino en el que te informa que no puede pagar el alquiler. No te preocupes. SEAG está aquí para ayudarte. Nuestro equipo te asegura que recibirás tu renta a tiempo. Con SEAG, tu renta está protegida. Recibes el ingreso en tu cuenta como siempre. Disfruta de la tranquilidad sabiendo que SEAG maneja el imprevisto por ti. Alquila tranquilo. SEAG responde.
Silver Gold Patrimonio nace en 2018 con el objetivo de innovar en el mercado de los metales preciosos de inversión, ofreciendo nuevas alternativas para que cualquier persona, familia o empresa pueda entrar en el fantástico mundo de los metales de inversión de forma sencilla y acompañada por consultores expertos en el sector. Silver Gold Patrimonio quiere avanzar contigo.
Pantalla para que pasemos con uno de nuestros invitados, que efectivamente nos viene a hablar el día de hoy de todo lo que serían los activos digitales. Algo muy importante porque a veces se nos olvida indudablemente que es algo que llegó para quedarse. Fíjense bien, yo voy a hablar con él inglés. Su nombre es Daniel Cohur y no solamente él trabaja en una compañía que se llama Token, sino que esa compañía fue adquirida por un grupo inmenso del grupo Apex. Ese grupo es muy importante a nivel mundial, porque para que usted tenga una idea, empezaron en toda la parte de administración de activos. ¿Qué significa eso? Cuando los fondos compran las acciones, una tercera parte es quien valida que eso existe. Esa compañía se inició así, se llama Apex, y ha venido adquiriendo otras compañías, incluyendo Token. Entonces, con Daniel, vamos a hablar en inglés, obviamente, sobre qué es lo que está pasando con los activos digitales que efectivamente llegaron para quedarse. Daniel, how are you? How are you doing? Thank you for coming. Sorry for all this incident that I was just sharing. But in any case, I want to start thanking you. And the next question will be, what are you seeing, first of all, in any trend in the digital assets? We are all bombarded, Bitcoin, Solana, and so on, blockchain. Give us a little overview about that, if you can, in a couple of minutes. so we can give you or ask you a few other questions. Thank you, Daniel.
My pleasure, and sorry to see you bleeding today. Yeah, so we have seen a lot of development over the last years, and of course, crypto assets has been leading those development, at least from a visible perspective. Bitcoin, Ether, and other crypto assets has been really ramping the market from a user perspective. But this is just a visible part of the iceberg. In reality, what we're seeing here is the development of a new technology called blockchain. In reality, this is the internet of value, and Bitcoin is just one use case that is leveraging this technology in order to deliver value to end users. And we see, of course, many more developments, especially when it comes to representing securities on this on this technology. So we see a change of capital market that is driven by this infrastructure that will indeed create new type of instruments, such as digital assets, but also that will allow to create representation of those assets on this infrastructure that inherently has far more capability than the existing one. If you look at the capital market infrastructure, this is an infrastructure that exists for decades, and we never really had the opportunity to upgrade that infrastructure. It's very much like if you have a car going at 100 miles per hour on the highway, you cannot decide to change the engine and stop the car, right? You cannot stop the capital market from existing and posing it. So now we have a technology that enables to change that market infrastructure and bring more capability that will translate into new opportunity for investors to access product at a global scale.
Let me ask you something, and I think it's important for me to ask you a question that everybody has. Daniel, and I probably might be a naive question, but it's extremely important. None of these things are hackable, which mean, do you think that down the road we're going to face some threat about people trying to hack and be successful doing a lot of things? Obviously, the story they are telling us is that it's impossible, that nobody will do that. But down the road, I've been reading, lately that obviously that's the major risk that we might face as society evolve and technology evolve. With regards of that, which might be a valid question, that most of the institutional investors that are using and perhaps will use this technology to validate what the managers are doing, are those questions arise? And what is the explanation if, God forbid, something like that happened then?
Well, obviously, when you have new technology, the risk is always there, right? We have seen, obviously, the news about wallets being hacked and crypto assets being stolen. So this is a risk, of course, that exists, and that exists mostly in nascent markets that are unregulated. So what we see now, especially in the US, is the development of new regulation. And regulation is important because they're aimed at protecting investors. And those regulations are there to regulate the different actors of this ecosystem to make sure that indeed we operate on an infrastructure that addresses those risks. Some of the value, for instance, that Token has been developing over the last 8 years is to build a mechanism where you link the asset not with a wallet that is anonymous, but with an identity. So it connects the asset with who you are. So someone cannot steal your identity. It can steal your assets, of course, but not your identity. So in that case, you do have a recovery mechanism that enables you to recover your assets if that asset is being stolen. So as you can see, yes, the risk exists, but as regulators are stepping in, we will be dealing more and more with regulated actors that therefore will be responsible for what they deliver in terms of service, but they will be also developing the technology that will address those risks.
In the other corner, when you are seeing all this arising, do you see, and this is a very important question as well, you have Latin America, you have Asia, you have the US, and you have Europe. There is not a secret that the US has been taking a leading role in all about the digitalization, the digital assets, and what it's going to do for the next incoming quarters. Do you think in terms of Latin America versus comparing Latin America with Europe and Asia, what do you think is the best continent that is more ready, willing, and able to accept the technology as an overall? If you can articulate it about Europe, Asia, and Latin America, that would be great. That gave us ideas of what it might happen in those impacts in those areas.
Well, what is interesting is that we've been really going from one market to the other, talking with regulators, and every time we are in one market, being Singapore, Hong Kong, Paris, Berlin, New York, everybody believed that the crypto development is happening in their market, because there are so many things going on, right? And I think that the regulators recognize that, because they were one of the first to start stepping into this industry and DeFi regulation or sandbox to enable those local companies to operate. Now, of course, when you start dealing with capital market, it becomes a very important subject at the scale of the country. And every country now is understanding the impact that it can have on its own capital market and addressing the regulatory changes that is required. Now, is there a market that is ahead of others? I don't think so. Are there markets that have a different scale, and therefore once they implement the proper regulation, will they be ahead of others? Yes, clearly that will be the case. But you also have to look at this technology as a global technology. You remove the barrier that exists between market, between infrastructure, between regulators. So we look really at a global village that will leverage this technology, and you will have local ecosystem that will deploy this technology and find a use case that is specific for the markets.
In the other corner, where do you think it will be, Daniel, one of those areas where it will be more effective? Everybody think about financial services, and obviously everything, it seems to be going into kind of the tokenization. I've been speaking with people at the New York Stock Exchange, and they are seeing the technology as something they might acquire and they want to develop and use. Even exchanges are seeing that opportunity. But in other industries, obviously, remember, you are an expert on that. What do you think will be realistically changing in the near future with this technology that can change the regular day-to-day for the regular people, either in Europe, Asia, US, or Latin America?
Well, one thing that is well, of course, the blockchain can have multiple applications, very much comparing the internet and looking at the application on the top of the internet. So crypto is as close to what we do than email is close to TikTok, right? So it's obviously leveraging the same infrastructure, but different application. Now, what is interesting in capital market is that if you look at the way that capital market has been developing over the years, there weren't really a lot of innovations. We have seen, for example, the emergence of neobanks, but neobanks were really about window dressing, right? They were changing the user experience, but not really changing the infrastructure behind. That's why when you have seen banks starting to implement those new front end, we were not talking anymore about those neobanks. So what blockchain will enable, as we will be operating on a common infrastructure, is to unlock innovation. You will not depend anymore on your provider to provide innovation and additional services that will provide more yields to your assets, for example. So we will see a world of innovation that will enable end users to have a better return on their investments. So it's very much like if you look at the App Store, when the App Store was launched, there were around 500 applications. 15 years after, you have 2 million applications. So we see a world tomorrow that will be driven by application. You will have third-party providers, such as Apex Room, for example, that will ensure that the compliance is respected, that the access to the data is protected, very much like what Apple is doing basically with the App Store. But then you will have application that will allow this data, that will access this data to create more value to investors. So think about tomorrow capital market as a world full of application, and you will be able to pick and choose what type of application will enable to deliver more value to your assets.
Listen, are you in the same corridor that the people that are saying that we're going to see the Bitcoin over 200,000 this year, or you are more cautious and basically waiting to see some good returns, but not as bullish as few others? What do you think? And we'll finish with this. You have 30 seconds. Articulate. Let us know, what do you think? Because obviously, when we talk about digital assets, at the end of the day, we ended up talking about the Bitcoin. Thank you, Dan.
Well, obviously, this is the visible part of the iceberg. And, I've been so often wrong with predicting where the Bitcoin will go that I will not dare to do a prediction now. But clearly, what we will see in a couple of years is innovation leading the world of digital assets. Bitcoin, of course, will continue to grow, but other assets will come into the play. I believe that this industry will be driven by retailization, by access to providing access to investors, to different type of investment opportunities. So definitely you will be more in control. So Bitcoin will certainly be a key driver of that. But what we see happening in the US now with the regulators recognizing stablecoin, and we do believe that having on-chain cash will unlock a lot of those use cases, will definitely be driving the market going forward.
Thank you very much. We enjoy your explanation, was very straight to the point. I think it's pretty interesting. We're going to be interacting more and more with your group because it's huge. And obviously you are entering into the Spanish-speaking population, so there is some stuff that we might do. Thank you, Daniel. Sorry for this incident. You so funny for the audience and for everybody. Great explanation. We'll definitely talk to you guys. Have a great rest of the summer. And thank you for coming, Daniel. Have a great day.
Era un placer. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Bueno, fíjense bien, estábamos hablando con Daniel O'Hurk.
Buenos días, 8 de la mañana, ¿han desayunado bien?
Si estás viendo esta cadena es que te gusta estar bien informado y te gustan mucho los mercados financieros.
No, pero no critiquéis. Aquí vemos todo lo contrario. Os oye todos los días.
Esto lo hacen estupendamente.
Es un cachondeo. Pero lo que está claro es que ahora mismo...
Traéis a invitados excepcionales.
Good afternoon, Cathy Booth.
Muy buenas tardes, bienvenidos de nuevo a Negocios Televisión. Cuando son las 4:31 de la tarde, les tenemos que contar varias noticias de última hora que nos han llegado a la redacción de Madrid de Negocios Televisión. Contarles en primer lugar que Ucrania aumentará, ojo a esto, la financiación de las brigadas de primera línea. Ha sido el presidente ucraniano Volodymyr Zelensky quien lo ha anunciado en el día de hoy, ha anunciado dicho aumento significativo en la financiación de las brigadas de combate tras las preocupaciones planteadas por los soldados durante las visitas al frente. Según las nuevas normas, cada batallón ucraniano que participe en combate recibirá, ojo a esto, 7 millones de grivnas, lo que incrementará el presupuesto de las brigadas en decenas de millones. Zelensky ha declarado también en su red social en Twitter, que la medida aborda los problemas planteados reiteradamente por las tropas, como la necesidad de una distribución más justa de los recursos y de mayores capacidades de las unidades. Decía precisamente, literalmente, Zelensky, estamos permitiendo que las brigadas realmente adquieran mayores capacidades, señalaba eso el presidente ucraniano. Además, la decisión es consecuencia de una revisión más amplia de las solicitudes de los soldados y se han planeado otras medidas para acelerar la cancelación de equipos y, eso sí, modernizar los procedimientos de adjudicación. También hay que destacarle, antes de contarles otra noticia de Zelensky, que Zelensky no ha hablado en el día de hoy con el primer ministro de la India, con Modi, pero es que también, según ha confirmado el propio Zelensky en redes sociales, ha tenido también en el día de hoy conversaciones con el príncipe heredero de Arabia Saudí. Por lo tanto, se desconoce de momento qué es lo que podrían haber hablado. Con Modi sí que se ha conocido, y se lo hemos venido contando aquí en Negocios Televisión, de que habían hablado sobre la posibilidad de cortar la compra de la India de petróleo, que compre la India petróleo a Rusia. Veremos en los siguientes minutos si sale información. No duden que aquí en Negocios Televisión se lo haremos llegar. También contarle otra noticia de última hora que nos llega a la redacción, y es que el Fondo de Riqueza de Noruega corta, ojo a esto, importante, vínculos con 11 empresas de Israel. El Banco Central noruego, Norges Bank, que gestiona el Fondo Soberano de Riqueza del país, ha anunciado esta misma tarde que pondrá fin a la inversión en 11 empresas israelíes que no estaban en el índice de referencia de acciones del Ministerio de Finanzas. Decía el comunicado, estas medidas se tomaron en respuesta a circunstancias extraordinarias. La situación en Gaza constituye una grave crisis humanitaria, es lo que declaraba Nikolai Tanger, director ejecutivo de Norges Bank Investment Management. Bueno, pues además también decía precisamente en ese comunicado, en respuesta reforzaremos aún más nuestras diligencias de vida. Las medidas que estamos adoptando simplificarán la gestión de nuestras inversiones en este mercado y reducirán el número de empresas que nosotros y el Consejo de Ética supervisamos. Por lo tanto, ojo, este duro golpe que le asesta ahora mismo el Fondo de Riqueza de Noruega, que corta vínculos con 11 empresas a Israel. Por lo tanto, seguramente que se vea perjudicado el gobierno israelí después de esta decisión del Fondo de Riqueza de Noruega. También contarles sobre Israel, que bueno, pues Israel ha advertido a Khamenei de un ataque aéreo. Dirán ustedes, ¿cómo ha sido esto? ¿Cómo ha pasado? Bueno, que el ministro de Defensa de Israel, ustedes lo conocen, Israel Katz, en respuesta a la lista de asesinatos publicada por Irán en las últimas horas, ha dicho, en cuanto salga del búnker, en referencia a Khamenei, le sugiero a Khamenei que mire al cielo de vez en cuando y escuche atentamente cada zumbido que esté cerca suyo. Los participantes de la boda roja lo esperan allí. Por lo tanto, declaración de intenciones, sin duda alguna, la que hace el ministro de Defensa de Israel, Israel Katz, diciendo ahora mismo que advierte a Khamenei de un ataque aéreo, de un posible ataque en cuanto, dice aquí Israel Katz, salga del búnker. Aparte de eso, también contarles, bueno, pues que países europeos, ojo a esto también, se reunirán antes de su llamada con Donald Trump. Alemania organizará una reunión virtual de líderes europeos sobre Ucrania el miércoles, antes de la llamada europea con Donald Trump. Es lo que ha dicho el portavoz del gobierno alemán. Por lo tanto, países europeos, se desconocen todavía quiénes serán, pero seguramente esté Francia, seguramente esté Alemania, seguramente esté Italia, seguramente también esté la presidenta de la Comisión Europea, Ursula von der Leyen, o, ¿por qué no?, la alta representante, como estaban ustedes viendo en pantalla, Kaja Kallas, también puede que esté, o incluso también países que no pertenecen a la Unión Europea, pero sí a Europa, como el país británico de Keir Starmer, que preside el primer ministro Starmer. Por lo tanto, como les digo, Alemania organizará una reunión virtual de líderes europeos sobre Ucrania este miércoles, antes de la llamada europea con, como les digo, con Donald Trump. Por lo tanto, esa es la última hora que le podemos contar. Aparte de eso, también miramos de nuevo a Ucrania. Dirán ustedes, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué miran ustedes a Ucrania? Bueno, para informarles simplemente de que a lo largo de la madrugada, como estamos contando, han seguido habiendo ataques por parte de Rusia y de Ucrania, de un bando y de otro. Los rusos han lanzado, según la Fuerza de Defensa de Ucrania, 71 drones durante la pasada noche. La Fuerza Aérea Ucraniana han sido quienes han anunciado, como les he dicho, en su última actualización de este lunes, que durante la noche el ejército ruso lanzó 71 drones de diversos tipos hacia Ucrania. El ejército ucraniano detallaba también que se interceptaron 59 objetivos voladores en todo el país, en todo el territorio que preside, que dirige Zelensky. También contarles que, por la parte contraria, Rusia también ha dicho que ha derribado 32 drones durante la noche que les habían enviado la Fuerza de Defensa Aérea rusa. Como les digo, han destruido 32 drones ucranianos durante la pasada noche, según lo que ha informado en el día de hoy el Ministerio de Defensa del país, sin mencionar, eso sí, a heridos o daños en dicho informe. De los 32 drones, al menos, el mayor número hasta la fecha, al menos 7 han sido derribados en la región de Belgorod, es lo que ha apuntado el Ministerio de Defensa del país. Además de eso, el resto de las intercepciones se dividieron de manera bastante uniforme en diferentes puntos de la región y otras regiones de Rusia, sobre todo a Moscú iban dichos drones, pero como les digo, han sido interceptados por la
placing
fuerza
the DC
del
Metropolitan Police
ejército
Department under direct
de Rusia.
federal
Siguen, por lo
control, and
tanto,
you'll
a
be meeting the
expensas
people that
de
will
que se
be
produzca esa
directly
reunión, esa
involved with
importante
that.
reunión que tendrá el viernes en Alaska.
Very
Como
good
ustedes saben,
people,
le venimos contando
but
aquí,
they're
aquí se lo
tough,
contaremos. También dicho día,
and
bueno,
they
pues,
know what's happening.
estaremos
They've done it
pendientes
before.
de,
In addition,
como
I'm
digo,
deploying the National
esa
Guard
reunión, si
to
siguen
help
dando ataques,
reestablish law, order,
no
and
es una
public
cosa que
safety
aclare que
in
calme
Washington,
la
D.C.,
tensión
and they're going to be allowed to
entre
do their
ambos
job
países. Y
properly.
eso que Donald Trump
And
se
you
muestra
people are
partidario
victims
de
of it too.
llegar a
You
un
know,
alto el
you're
fuego, de
reporters,
que
and I
acabe la
understand a lot of
masacre
you
por parte
tend to
de
be on the liberal
Rusia y por
side.
parte
You
de
don't want to
Ucrania.
get
Veremos qué pasa, que
you don't want
sale
to get mugged
de en
and raped
adelante,
and
por
shot
lo
and
tanto,
killed.
ese viernes, esa
And
declaración.
you all know
Contarles
people
también,
and friends of yours that happened.
bueno, que
And
Donald
so
Trump,
you
como
can
ustedes
be any-
saben, tenía que hablar
Anything you
en el
want,
día
but
de
you
hoy.
want to have
Estamos muy
safety in the
pendientes
streets. You want to be
porque
able
en
to
breve
leave your
momento
apartment or your
va a
house where
estar
you live
Donald Trump, si no me,
and feel safe and go into a
si no me
store
lleva
to
la
buy a
contraria,
newspaper
puede que
or buy
esté ya
something.
incluso a punto de
And you don't
comparecer
have that
el
now.
presidente
The murder
porque
rate in
busca acabar,
Washington
como les
today
digo, y en la
is
noticia
higher
también del
than
día,
that of
acabar con
Bogota,
la violencia y
Colombia,
los robos en
Mexico
Washington,
City,
debido a
some
que
of the
hay
places that you
bastante
hear
caos.
about
Vamos a ver
as
esa comparecencia de
being
prensa del
the
presidente,
worst
del
places
mandatario
on
americano.
earth. Much higher. This is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past 5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. Beautiful ballroom. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. In this room. Yeah, just like we did on And our we're here for southern a very border. Nobody serious comes to our southern purpose. border anymore. Very 3 months in a row, we had Something's zero. out of I don't know control, if that's but we right. put but it in the control people very that do the quickly, work, like we did on the southern border. it's a very liberal I'm group of announcing people. a Actually, historic They actually
action
said zero
to
for the last 3 months. Nobody
rescue
thought
our
anything like
nation's
that was
capital
possible.
from crime, bloodshed, bedlam,
And
and squalor.
You know, when
and
you
worse.
take a look at numbers, I just
This
saw
is
some
Liberation Day in
charts.
DC,
These
and
are
we're
different cities throughout the
going to
world.
take our capital back. We're
Red
taking
is-
it back under the authorities vested
The red
in me
is
as the
place called
President of the
Washington,
United
D.C.
States. I'm officially
Look at
invoking
these.
Section 740 of the District
Baghdad
of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that
We
is?
doubled up on Baghdad.
And placing the DC Metropolitan
Panama
Police
City,
Department under direct
Brasilia,
federal
San
control, and
Jose,
you'll be
Costa
meeting the
Rica,
people that will be
Bogota, Colombia,
directly
heavy
involved
drugs.
with that.
Mexico City,
Very
I
good people,
mentioned, Lima,
But
Peru.
they're tough, and
All
they know what's
double and
happening.
triple.
They've done it before.
What they are.
In
So do you
addition,
wanna live in
I'm
places
deploying
like
the
that?
National Guard
I
to
don't
help
think so.
reestablish
I don't
law,
think
order,
so.
and
And I
public
think the people in
safety
this room,
in Washington,
If you wrote
D.C., and
correctly,
they're
you'd
going to
see
be
look
allowed
at
to
the
do
kind of
their
numbers
job
we have.
properly.
DC,
And you people are victims of it too.
41
You know,
per
you're
100,000.
reporters, and I understand a lot of
Number
you
one
tend to be on the
that we
liberal
can
side,
find
but you don't
anywhere
want to
in the
get
world. Other cities are.
you don't want to get
pretty
mugged
bad,
and
but they're
raped
not as
and
bad as
shot
that.
and killed. And you
Where
all
you
know
wanna
people
live?
and friends of yours that
The reporters of the
happened.
world.
And so you can be any
Juvenile offenders
anything you
and
want,
crimes
but you want to
against
have safety in the streets. You want to be
persons,
able
as
to
they
leave
say.
your apartment or your house where you live
It's getting worse.
and feel safe
getting
and go
better,
into a
it's getting
store to buy a
worse.
newspaper or buy
And we
something.
had a recent
And you don't have that
indication.
now. The murder rate in
And,
Washington
There's
today
a story
is higher than that
about a
of
man who
Bogota, Colombia,
just
Mexico
left.
City,
He
some
quit
of the
because he
places
was
that
asked
you
to
hear
do phony
about
numbers
as
on crime.
being
And we're going
the
to
worst places on earth, much higher. This is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past
We don't want to show the real numbers.
5
Let me
years,
do
and the
numbers
number
so
of
it looks like it's going down.
carjackings
Not
has
going
more
down.
than tripled.
And under
Murders
Biden, it was a
in
disaster.
2023
Nobody
reached the
did
highest
anything
rate
about it. We're going to do things
probably
about it.
ever.
People
They
wouldn't
say
believe it.
25 years, but they don't know what that means.
Every
because
American
it
has
just
a
goes back 25
constitutional
years.
Can't be worse.
Right
to be able to.
Our capital
access
city has
and
been
petition
overtaken
their
by
government
violent gangs
in
and
safety,
bloodthirsty
and countless
criminals,
federal
roving
officials
mobs
and
of
employees
wild youth,
likewise have the right to
drugged
carry
out
their
maniacs
jobs
and
in
homeless
peace
people.
without being shot. As
And
you
we're
know,
not
I
going to let it happen
lost a
anymore.
very
We're
good
not going to
person.
take it. Just like
while
we
ago was
did
shot waiting for his
on
wife.
our
He was
southern
in the
border.
car, they
Nobody
robbed
comes
his
to
car,
our
they
southern
shot him,
border
they
anymore.
killed him
3
like
months
it
in a
was
row, we had
nothing to
zero.
him. I don't know if that's
She
right.
was
but
walking to the
the
car.
people
She
that do
was
the work
a horror show.
It's a very liberal group of people, actually, and they actually said zero for the last 3 months. Nobody thought a thing like that was possible.
America, really.
And, you know, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Look at Los Angeles, how bad. Red is We have other cities that are very bad. The red is a place called Washington D.C. Of course, look at these: Baltimore and Oakland. Baghdad. Not anymore. They're so far gone. We doubled up on Baghdad. We're not going to lose our cities over this. Panama City. And this will Brasilia, go further. San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Clean it up real quick. Very quickly, Mexico City, I mentioned. Lima, Peru. Former member of the DOJ staff was savagely beaten by a band of roving thugs after defending a young woman from an attempted carjacking. I don't think so. He was left dripping in blood. He thought he was dead. If you wrote correctly, you'd see. Look at the kind of numbers. Can't believe that he's alive. You can't believe it. 41 per 100,000. 21-year-old congressional intern was tragically killed after being hit other cities by a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting. A former Trump administration official named Mike Gill, fantastic person, was murdered last year in cold blood. Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. We all knew it's getting worse. Great person. Not getting better. It's getting worse. Waiting for his wife. And we had a recent indication. The Democrat congressman was also carjacked at gunpoint not far from the Capitol. And in 2023, he quit because he was asked to do phony numbers. Rand Paul was stabbed in the chest. We're going to look into that. I think Pam is going to be looking into that. By a demented lunatic who was asked walk down the street just absolutely for no reason. We don't want to show the real numbers. Horrifically, last July 4th weekend, a 3-year-old girl was shot and under Biden in the head and killed while sitting in a car. Nobody did anything about it. We did the cabs about it like you wouldn't believe. It's becoming a situation of every American has a constitutional right to be able to access and petition their government in safety, and countless federal officials and employees likewise have the right to carry out their jobs in peace where they live without being shot. As you know, I lost caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets. Was shot waiting for his wife. He was in the car. They robbed his car. They shot him. They killed him like it was nothing to it. ATVs. She was walking to the car. They traveled pretty well. This issue directly impacts the now functioning of the federal government curfews. A threat just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that the Navy Yard. We have other cities also that morning they saw very bad. You look at they fought back against. See, they fight back. You look at Los Angeles, how bad until you knock the hell out of them because it's the only language they understand. New York fought back against. And then you have, of course, last night. Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. I've instructed them. Not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. Told them whatever happens, they love to spit in the face of starting very strongly. The police are standing up there. And we're going to clean it up real quick. Uniform. They're standing very quickly, as they say. And they're screaming at them. Days ago, a former member of the DOJ staff was savagely beaten by a band of roving thugs after defending a young woman from an attempted carjacking. He was left dripping in blood. He thought he was dead with a broken nose and concussion. Can't believe that he's alive. He can't believe it. I've watched them. In June, a 21-year-old congressional intern was tragically killed after being hit by a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting. And they're standing. A former Trump administration official named Mike Gill, fantastic person, was murdered last year in cold blood in a carjacking blocks away from this dire public safety crisis. Stems directly from the abject failures of the city's local leadership, waiting for his wife, city council adopted no cash bail. By the way, the Democrat congressman was also carjacked at gunpoint not far from the Capitol. That's what started the problem. And in 2023, an aide to Senator Rand Paul was stabbed in the chest in Chicago. Head bad politicians by a demented lunatic as he walked down the street, just absolutely for no reason. No cash bail. Horrifically, last July 4th weekend, a 3-year-old girl was shot in the head and killed while sitting in a car. We're going to end that near the Capitol. Chicago. We're going to change the statute. It's becoming a situation of complete and total lawlessness. Change the statute, and we're getting rid of the slums too. We have slums here. We're getting rid of them. Democrats are weak on politically correct. Totally weak on crime. So terrible. No, we get rid of the slums. They don't know why. Where they live. They want to stop because they get mugged too. Caravans of mass youth. We're going to change no cash bail. We're going to change the statute and get rid of some of the other things. All times of the day. Republicans in Congress and Senate. ATVs, motorbikes. So they travel pretty well. Majority, but we've got entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that the Navy Yard. How good it is. I saw it this morning. that they fought back against law. See, they fight back. We'll be able to get that done. So Todd, until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night with Republicans. And probably won't get. They're not going to be fighting back long because probably won't get one Democrat. Instructed them, and they have no idea what they're doing. Told them they want whatever happens, you know, they love to spit in the face of the police as the police are standing up there in uniform. They're standing. And they're screaming at them, just got an inch away from their face, and then they start spitting in their face. I saw the other day. And I said, "You tell them, gentlemen, you spit, very well-known politician, Democrat, and they can hit fighting like hell. That men should be allowed to play. It's a disgusting thing. I've watched that for years. They said it's an 80-20 issue, and I think it's a 97-3 issue. Police and they're told, don't do anything under any such. So and you can see they want to get out. You have to let men play. And they're standing there, and people are spitting in their face, and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want. This dire public safety crisis stems directly from jurisdiction. That's the other thing. We have to get rid of sanctuary cities as quickly as possible. We're going to do it. We have the radical left because it's sanctuary for criminals. No cash releasing illegal alien gang members. Every place in the country, 2022, nearly 70% of criminals arrested. That's what started the problem in New York, and they don't change it. Unprosecuted. Nearly 70% of criminals arrested in Washington went unprosecuted. That's not going to happen with the group we have standing aside and standing behind me. And at the Metropolitan Police Department, it's now reached a small number relatively compared to what it was, but it's thousands of people. You know, we have thousands of police. I was told today, sure, they want more police. I heard a number, 3,500 police. That's a lot of police. 3,500. I thought they're going to say, we only have 30 policemen or women. He said, we have 3,500. We need more. You don't need more. That's so many. I never heard. That's like an army. How could you need more than 3,000? It just happened 2 minutes ago. Sir, they've requested more police. Oh, what do they have? About 3,500. I said, 3,500? This is not a big area. It's ridiculous. What you need is rules and regulations, and you need the right people to implement them. And we have the right people here, that I can tell you. Look at the border. Biden said, there's nothing you can do. Kamala was the border czar. She never called one of the Border Patrol agents who are great. ICE is great. Never spoke to anybody. Never went there. But she was the border czar. And everybody said it was impossible to fix. I fixed it in 3 months. No, really. I fixed it the first week, but really fixed it over the last couple of months. And I mean, literally to a point where, as I said, 0 illegals entering our country in the last 90 days. Pretty amazing. It's time for dramatic action. We're going to do the same thing over here. It's going to be a very safe city very soon. We're not looking to take years, because a lot of people die in years, and we've got incredible people in this country, except we have to allow them to do their job. And that we will deliver like nobody's ever delivered before. I actually think it's easy. You know, if you're competent, it's easy. If you're incompetent, it's impossible. But I'm very competent. Last week, my administration surged 500 federal agents into the district, including from the FBI, ATF, DEA, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Secret Service, and the Department of Homeland Security. You know, a lot of nations, they don't have anything like that. They got some police, and they're rough police. They don't have DEA, ATF, FBI, Park Police, U.S. Marshal Service, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security. They got some police, but they're rough police, and they do their job. They don't have crime. We're not going to have crime either. They made dozens of arrests, and that's what starts to happen. Again, cashless bail. Watch what we do with that. Today, we're formally declaring a public safety emergency. This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful capital was, with graffiti all over the walls. It's another part of it, by the way, because we're talking about safety, but we're also talking about beautification. We have the most beautiful, potentially, capital in the world. We always had. But people come from Iowa, they come from Indiana, they come and then they get mugged. Not going to happen. Keep coming, because by the time you get your trip set, it's going to be safe again, and it's going to be clean very quickly. We're going to replace the medians that are falling down all over the roads. We're going to replace the potholes. We're going to put a nice new coat of asphalt over the top. No, we don't have to rip the road out and spend 7 years building a new road because they cut everything. Because some designers said, well, we need a 1/4 inch more turn for safety reasons. No, we're going to do it right. We're going to get it done quickly. So today we're declaring public safety emergency in the District of Columbia, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's fantastic, is taking command of the Metropolitan Police Department as of this moment. And I'll be making the appropriate notifications to Congress and to the mayor, our new DEA administrator, who's one of the top in the country. He better be Terry. If you're not, I'm going to get rid of you so fast. Terry Cole. Terry, thanks. Very good. We just got him, most highly recommended person. And you'll be designated as the interim federal commissioner of the Metropolitan Police Department. Okay? And you run them tough. They're good. You have a lot of good people. You have people that shouldn't be there. You also have people that shouldn't be there. They got in there because of woke. But you have a lot of great police. And those people are the ones that want to help you. This city will no longer be a sanctuary for illegal alien criminals. We will have full, seamless, integrated cooperation at all levels of law enforcement, and we'll deploy officers across the district with an overwhelming presence. You'll have more police, and you'll be so happy because you'll be safe. When you walk down the street, you're going to see police, or you're going to see FBI agents. We're going to have a lot of agents on the streets. You're going to have a lot of essentially military, and we will bring in the military if it's needed. By the way, we're going to have National Guard, but Pete Hegseth will tell you about it. We will bring in the military if needed. People say, oh, that's so terrible. He's going to bring in, it's been used many times over the years. I don't think we'll need it. I think we've got so many great people, including the people that are in the police department with proper leadership. They'll immediately begin massive enforcement operations targeting known gangs, drug dealers, and criminal networks to get them the hell off the street, maybe get them out of the country, because a lot of them came into our country illegally. They shouldn't have been allowed in. They come from Venezuela. They come from all over the world. We're going to get them the hell out. They won't be here long. But some of these people, a lot of them, are homegrown criminals. And these are bad people. These are rough people. And this is just a list of some of the people that were given to me today that were criminals removed from the D.C. streets this weekend. They were rough and tough, but we're rougher and tougher. Look at these people here. Nothing, you know, they're not going to be your local school teacher. Look at this guy. He has killed people numerous times. They're not going to be an asset. They will never be an asset to society. I don't care. I know we all want to say, oh, they're going to be rehabbed. It's not going to be rehabbed. I'm going to ask Doug Burgum to come up and say a couple of words because he's in charge, as you know. He's Interior, but he's in charge of the U.S. Park Police. And I've heard so many great things about the Park Police. They're proud of it. They've been there for a long time. Their families oftentimes grow into the roles. They love the country. They love this area. So, Doug, could you say a few words, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the U.S. Park Police, this is the oldest federal police force in the nation. They were formed in 1791 by none other than President George Washington. They've got the awesome responsibility of protecting our nation's most sacred monuments. The National Mall, Washington Monument, Jefferson Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, Statue of Liberty, and out west, the Presidio and the Golden Gate area. These folks have tens of millions of visitors a year, the kind of people that President Trump's talking about that come from around the country and around the world to see our sacred and learn about our history and our sacred monuments. They've been doing a fantastic job, but they are so pleased, the rank and file, that President Trump is now allowing them to enforce the law. As those of you that live in the city may know, that the circles and the triangle parks that are spread throughout DC are actually federal park property. So the U.S. Park Police also have responsibility for that. These became littered with homeless camps under the Biden administration. All of you saw that. Since President Trump's executive order on March 27th, making DC safe and beautiful again, the U.S. Park Police have removed over 70 homeless camps. And President Trump also talked about beautification. They're stopping and enforcing the laws against graffiti on our monuments. They've removed over 80 specific attacks against our history with graffiti on our monuments. So they continue to do a great job, whether it's in their vehicles, on foot, or on the mounted police that you see around the National Mall. And President Trump, they thank you. The rank and file is so happy to be enforcing the law again. Thank you for your leadership. And they're excited about the announcement you're making today.
Thank you. Very good. Great job you did. Thank you very much. Pete, could you say something about the military? If you would?
Well, Mr. President, it's an honor to be here. And at your direction this morning, we've mobilized the DC National Guard. It'll be operationalized by the Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll, through the DC Guard. You will see them flowing into the streets of Washington in the coming week. At your direction as well, sir, there are other units we are prepared to bring in. Other National Guard units, other specialized units. They will be strong, they will be tough, and they will stand with their law enforcement partners. This is nothing new for DOD. As the president noted, at the border, we've got 10,000 troops down there who've been operating in defense cooperation areas, defense zones, where there's zero illegal crossings because of troops on strikers scanning the border. We've been protecting other people's borders for 20 years. It's about time we protect our own. And we're working with ICE and CBP. In Los Angeles, we did the same thing, working with the California National Guard, working with ICE officers. ICE officers deserve to do their job and not be attacked. We will work alongside all DC police and federal law enforcement to ensure this city is safe, this city is beautiful. And as I always say about President Trump to the troops, he has their back. And my message to the National Guard and federal law enforcement in Washington is, we have your back as well. Be tough, be strong. We're right behind you. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm going to ask Pam, because she's now, as you heard me say, she's really in charge of a lot of what we're talking about. She's done an incredible job. People are going to start to see the fruits of her labor. And Pam, maybe you could say a few words about what we're talking about here.
Sure, President. Let me be crystal clear. Crime in DC is ending and ending today. We are going to use every power we have to fight criminals here. President, thank you for caring about our capital. Families come here every summer. Our museums are free. We have the National Zoo. We have the National Gallery. DC should be a place where everyone can come and feel safe. Behind me and to my side, we have some of the best career law enforcement and prosecutors in the country who are ready to take this on. As the president said, Terry Cole is going to be supervising the Metro Police Department. Gadi Serralta, our U.S. Marshal, is going to be supervising command and control, the entire operation. Our Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, and I will be working with them closely, along with our great FBI Director, Kash Patel. Kash is going to talk to you in a minute about what we did in Virginia recently with Governor Youngkin. Many of you covered that, and it was tremendously successful. Not only that, our secret weapon here in DC is U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, one of the toughest prosecutors and a former judge. And she is going to be talking about juvenile crime, how it's out of control here, and what she's going to do to fight back. No more crime rampant in our beautiful capital. No more teenage girls beating a disabled man to death. No more of that. No more drive-bys. We're going to do everything we can. And working with the ATF Director Driscoll and Commander of the Army, we're going to all work together. That's what we all do in this room. We work together. We fight. Do not underestimate one person in this room. We're going to make DC beautiful. We're going to make DC safe again. One other thing, just at the wharf a few days ago, the area of the wharf, Terry Cole reached out to me, not even nightfall, on the weekend, where so many families and tourists go. A guy's overdosing from fentanyl on a park bench in the middle of families around. They administer Narcan and saved his life. No more of that. The President of the United States is going to clean up DC, and we're going to be there to help him, and we're going to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Cash, talk about Northern Virginia, if you would. Northern Virginia, we had a big success.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for your leadership, Deputy Attorney General, and the rest of our interagency partners. Mr. President, the following is what happens when you let good cops be cops. And I just want to highlight that before I get into Northern Virginia. This year alone, under President Trump's administration, we've had over 4,000 child victims identified and found. That's a 33% increase from the same time period last year. 33% increase. We've had a seizure of 1,500 kilograms of fentanyl up to this date. That is a 25% increase since the same time period last year. And just to put it in perspective, 1,500 kilograms of fentanyl is enough to kill 115 million Americans. 115 million Americans. Cops are getting after it. The FBI has arrested 19,000 people this year alone. Thanks to President Trump's administrations, that's double than where we were this time last year. And we have also arrested 1,600 people who have committed violent acts against children. 270 of them are human traffickers of children. Mr. President, this is what happens when you have great leadership at the Attorney General with Pam Bondi, your administration's priority of protecting the homeland and protecting American citizens and protecting our children, and the murder rates are plummeting. We are now able to report that the murder rate is on track to be the lowest in U.S. history, in modern recorded U.S. history, thanks to this team behind me and President Trump's priorities. And how do we do it? And what are we going to bring to D.C.? What we did in Northern Virginia, thanks to Terry Cole and Governor Youngkin and the team, we stood up a task force out in my Northern Virginia field office, and we said, let's let good cops be cops. Let's get them the intelligence and what they need, and let's get the red tape out of their way, and let's get DOJ partnered up with us to bring great prosecutions. And that's exactly what we did. In 1 month, we arrested 545 violent felons, 545 in the state of Virginia, thanks to Governor Youngkin's partnership. And that simplicity in law enforcement is what's coming to Washington, D.C. When you let good cops be cops, when you give them the intel they need, when you work with our Homeland Security Task Force, when you work with Terry and Gaddy and I go way back to Miami, these guys are great leaders of the respective departments and law enforcement capacities. And when you have the DOJ and President Trump driving behind this mission, we are going to clean up Washington, D.C., and we're going to do it the right way, the lawful way, and we're going to make sure Washington, D.C. is safe again. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney General.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cash. So the process begins right now. It actually started over the weekend. We confronted a lot of very bad people, but it's going to be something that will be pretty amazing to you as you watch it. And I think most of you say it's a beautiful thing to do it right. We're going to be removing homeless encampments from all over our parks, our beautiful, beautiful parks, which now a lot of people can't walk on. They're very dirty, got a lot of problems. But we've already started that. We're moving the encampments away, trying to take care of people. Some of those people, we don't know how they even got there. Some of those people are from different countries, different parts of the world. Nobody knows who they are. They have no idea, but they're there. Getting rid of the people from underpasses and public spaces from all over the city. There are many places that they can go, and we're going to help them as much as you can help. But they'll not be allowed to turn our capital into a wasteland for the world to see. The Metropolitan Police Department and the federal authorities will be supported in the effort, a really big effort, the 800 DC National Guardsmen that we'll put on, and much more if necessary, much more. You remember I said, I offered 10,000 once. Remember I said to a certain person, who I thought always was highly overrated, not very competent. But I said, if you need them, we'll give you 10,000 of the military or the National Guard. They turned me down. But if necessary, we're going to move service members directly to joining the Guardsmen. And that'll take place very rapidly, and that'll be done in conjunction with Pam and with Pete and everybody else. Washington, D.C. should be one of the safest, cleanest, and most beautiful cities anywhere in the world. And we're going to make it that. We're going to make it safe. We're going to make it smart. We're going to make it beautiful, so beautiful. Some of the buildings, we're going to add to it. You see what we've done at the White House. White House is a whole different building. I do that in my part-time because it's a natural instinct as a real estate person. I was very good at that, and I was very good at fixing things up. I like fixing things up. You see what's happening. The marble floors are being reinstalled, renovated, fixed. The whole place is becoming very beautiful. We're going to be adding a magnificent ballroom, most beautiful ballroom, I think, anywhere. We need it. I would have certainly loved to have had it today. I think we would have filled it up. A lot of you are standing outside, can't get in this room. I have never seen the room like this, which tells me that you want to talk about, I mean, this was a DC news conference. It tells me that you want to talk about crime in DC and beautification of DC, but I'm going to put that's easy. And I think, frankly, fixing the crime with the pros, fixing the crime is easy too. A person who I've known for a long time, and she's been incredible. She was a fantastic, one of the best ever district attorneys in New York. She was in Westchester, and she became a judge, very successful judge. And then she went into showbiz because she was such a good DA and such a good judge, tough judge, but fair, always fair. Nobody ever complained about that, but she was tough. And because of that and her reputation, she went into showbiz. So a lot of people don't, they think of Janine as showbiz. Actually, showbiz was not her thing. And she did great. She was on, along with a couple of other of my friends, on the #1 show. And she did great. But this is what she loves doing. This is really her baby. What she's going to do is going to be incredible. And I'd like to speak for just a few seconds on what she has in mind, what she wants to do. We're going to be appointing some judges. We have some open spots, and we're going to take people because the judges are letting killers out. They just say, go, that's okay. Don't worry about it. So we're putting some Pam recommended, Todd recommended, some judges that are great. Janine recommended. Janine's given me 3 great candidates already. We have about 10 open spots, and we could probably create some more. We need them. Janine, would you say a few words, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam Attorney General, and to all my partners here. We all want the same thing. We all want a safe city. We want a safe capital. We want to be able to bring our families here. We want to be able to come and enjoy the history that makes this place great. And unfortunately, we are not in that position right now. And Mr. President, I want to thank you for taking the step that we need right now to make criminals understand that they are not going to get away with it anymore. And I'm not going to stand here and go over and over the cases. But what I can tell you is this. I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks who think that they can get together in gangs and crews and beat the hell out of you or anyone else. They don't care where they are. They can be in DuPont Circle, but they know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. I can't touch you if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you have a gun. I convict someone of shooting another person with an illegal gun on a public bus in the chest, intent to kill. I convict him. And you know what the judge gives him? Probation. Says you should go to college. We need to go after the DC Council and their absurd laws. We need to get rid of this concept of, no cash bail. We need to recognize that the people who matter are the law-abiding citizens. And it starts today. But it's not going to end today because the president is going to do everything we need to do to make sure that these emboldened criminals understand we see you, we're watching you, and we're going to change the law to catch you. And my final note is this. These kids understand that the jurisdiction is through the state attorney general, Brian Schwab. I did a poster of the young man from Doge who was beaten bloody with a severe concussion, a broken nose. And then I did a poster of what happens to those kids because I can't arrest them. I can't prosecute them. They go to family court and they get to do yoga and arts and crafts. Enough. It changes today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Great job. Thank you. If I could, I just signed some executive orders. I'd like to have Will please come up and we'll let the people know what we signed. Do you want to put them down?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
A short while ago in the Oval Office, President Trump signed 2 crucial executive actions to deal with the emergency crime conditions we currently face in the District of Columbia. The first of these was an executive order, as President Trump said before, invoking his powers under Section 40 of the Home Rule Act to take federal control of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. Along with that executive order, President Trump signed the statutorily required notification letters to Mayor Bowser and to the relevant House and Senate committee leaders. The second major executive action that President Trump signed was a presidential memorandum directing the Secretary of Defense to utilize the National Guard to address the conditions we see on our streets here in D.C. It also authorized the Secretary of Defense to work with state governors to utilize their National Guard units if necessary as well. These are bold, decisive steps intended to combat the out-of-control crime conditions we've seen on D.C.'s streets for far too long. And I, for one, am deeply proud to be part of an administration that's finally coming to terms with these issues, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you. So just to conclude, Washington, D.C. should be one of the safest, cleanest, most beautiful places anywhere in the world. It was years ago. We had one problem that was a pretty big problem. The radical left got out of control and they started trying to rip down statues. And I said, let's go pass a law real fast. We're going to do it real fast, but we were blocked by the Democrats who do not want safety. Nobody gets it. I don't get it. They don't get it because they can't get votes. I don't know how they can win an election with this, but they don't want safety. And I found an old statute, very old, early 1900s, that said if you so much as touch or even think about destroying a statue or a monument in Washington, D.C., you go to jail for 10 years with no probation, no anything. In other words, slightly different than we have today. Today we have cashless bail. There you get jailed 10 years. No curtailed sentence, 10 years. And we took it out. Nobody used it. It was never used because, you know, it's harsh. And you remember they started to rip down the statue of Abraham Lincoln. I said, that's a tough one to rip down. He was pretty good, Pam. I think he was pretty good. When the ropes started going around Abraham Lincoln to pull him down, Andrew Jackson, others, and they were heading to the Jefferson Memorial, Thomas Jefferson. They're going to do a big number there. I said, it's time. And I signed that statute immediately. We had it updated. We made it use the same language, all passed by Congress. And I announced it's 10 years in jail, no probation, no anything, 10 years, no curtail sentence if you touch, so much as touch a statue in Washington, D.C. And it was an amazing sight, beautiful sight. Everybody just left. The ropes were hanging around Andrew Jackson, and there were 2 ropes around Abraham Lincoln. They left the rope, but everybody just left. And that was the last problem we ever had. You know, that was the last problem that we ever had with the statues. They were going wild. And somebody came to me and said, sir, in 1910, I don't want to give you an exact because you'll say, Donald Trump gave us wrong dates around like early on. You know, if I'm slightly off, they make you sound a little bad. So I won't put myself in that position. I won't put you in that position because I think everybody agrees with what we're doing today. But when I signed that thing, it was like a miracle. Everybody left. They were gone. They were starting to march down. They started the march toward Thomas Jefferson. And I figured he was always going to be safe. But they found something with him, and they found something with Abraham Lincoln. And even in the name George Washington in California, numerous places changed the name of George Washington High School and various other places. They took George Washington's name. This was a sick, woke culture that I think we've largely ended. And a lot of those people that were woke are now turning out to be the opposite. I won't go so far as to say MAGA. It's a very special category. But they've gotten out of that. But we have people that love this country, and they love this really beautiful capital. It is. I flew over it the other day and I said, what a beautiful place. But if there's crime all over the streets, when you get there, it doesn't look so beautiful. But we're going to make it beautiful again. We're going to fix it with crime. And we're going to also, as we're doing that, we're going to start doing things that we know how to do, that I know how to do better than anybody, I guess, because of my experience from previous life. But not only are we stopping the crime, we're going to clean up the trash and the graffiti and the grime and the dirt and the broken marble panels and all of the things they've done to hurt this city. And we're going to restore the city back to the gleaming capital that everybody wants it to be. It's going to be something very special. All of these people are really tough. Could I shake your hand, Gaddy, please? You're going to be so important here. You're going to be that guy. I hope I don't have to fire him in 2 weeks because he's too soft. I don't think he's too soft. If I do, I will, though. Is it okay? If you're soft, weak, and pathetic, like so many people, I will fire you so fast. You're not going to have to worry about that. No, I think you're going to do a fantastic job. And everybody in this room, they may not express it, but they all want that to happen. You know, they want to be safe, and they have families too. So it's an honor to have such a large group. I've done this for years now, hard to believe. I've never seen this room so packed. In fact, I'm sure it's a violation of every fire code. But we'll let you stay anyway. You're taking a chance. And with that, we'll say, maybe if you could, oh, wow. We could be here all day long. If we could keep the first questions perhaps to this subject, and then we'll go on to a few others. Please.
Mr. President, thank you so much. Can you talk about how personal of an issue this is? We talked about flying over the Washington Monument and seeing the pride of what D.C. is. And do you believe that the status of the city, the cleanliness, the way that crime is low, is a direct reflection on how the country is run?
Yeah, I do. I think the Capitol, look, everyone comes here. They're all coming. All the leaders, they're all wanting to come. And I say it, I've said it again, but I'm really just quoting other leaders from NATO, from the Middle East, King of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE. I was over there. We brought back $5.1 trillion of investment into our country. But a month and a half ago, I was at NATO. We had a great thing. They agreed to put up 5% instead of 2%. 2% they didn't pay, 5% is already paid. We had a great meeting, and they all said the same thing. They said our country was dead. They thought our country was gone. 1 year ago, they said your country was dead. And now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. We do. We have the hottest country in the world right now. The tariffs have helped. It's given us not only the money, it's billions, trillions of dollars of money, but it gives us great power over enemies. We solved 5 wars with Pakistan and India. We just solved one. Azerbaijan and, as you know, and Armenia. A war was raging for 37 years. And the 2 leaders got up and they said, we never thought this would be solved. Russia tried to solve it. They all tried to solve it. It was a very tough situation, but we got it done. And I said to the 2 men, I said, are you guys friends? And they had a hard time. You know, they've been killing each other for 37 years, right? One was there 5 years. One was there for 22 years. He said, my whole life I've been fighting this war. And you got it solved. But we did many of those. We did in the Congo and Rwanda. That's been going on for 30 years. 8 to 9 million people killed that they know of, but it was raging, and we got that solved. We got a lot of them done. It's a great honor. But you want to have when they come, the leaders come to our country to sign documents that the war is over or whatever, or for other reasons. They come for trade. And you want them to come through so beautifully. You ride down those roads, everything should be perfect. You shouldn't have medians falling down into the roadway. Median, you know, the metal things that are always, somebody had a great lobbyist, because I've never seen them look good. I've been looking at those things with the little, right? They're always broken, bad, but here they're really bad. And we're going to either put new or fix it. And it's not expensive. It's not really expensive. And we're going to fix our roads a little bit. We're going to clean up our sidewalks. You have countries where every Saturday, the people go out and they wash their sidewalks in front of their stores or their houses. They scrub their sidewalks. So we aren't quite at that level yet. I don't think, Gaddy, we're not quite there yet, but maybe we will. They go out and they scrub. I think it's so beautiful to hear that and to see those stories. But we're going to make it clean. But just to finish with your question, it's a very, very strong reflection of our country. And when they see a bad city, you know, my father always used to tell me, I had a wonderful father, very smart. And he used to say, son, when you walk into a restaurant and you see a dirty front door, don't go in, because if the front door is dirty, the kitchen's dirty also. Same thing with the Capitol. If our Capitol's dirty, our whole country is dirty, and they don't respect us. So it's a very good question, actually.
Mr. President, sorry. Question for you on the specific issue. Do you expect more cities to follow DC's path if this goes through? So the idea is that Chicago, LA, San Francisco, would they expect similar action what we've seen in DC? And the other question, sir, there's reporting that the administration is going to reclassify marijuana. Would that send mixed messages that if marijuana is okay, some drugs are okay, but we're trying to clean up crime? How do they go hand in hand?
We're only looking at that. That's early, but you know, somebody reported it, which is fine. We're looking at it. Some people like it. Some people hate it. Some people hate the whole concept of marijuana because if it does bad for the children, it does bad for people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification, and we'll make a determination over the next, I would say, over the next few weeks. And that determination hopefully will be the right one. It's a very complicated subject, the subject of marijuana. I've heard great things having to do with medical, and I've had bad things having to do with just about everything else. But medical and, for pain and various things, I've heard some pretty good things. But for other things, I've heard some pretty bad things. The other part of your question, I mean, we're just going to see what happens with it all. We're going to have a tremendous success in what we're doing. Other cities are hopefully watching this. They're all watching, just like everyone's watching here. They're all watching, and maybe they'll clean up, and maybe they'll do this and get rid of the cashless bail thing and all of the things that caused the problem. I mean, if you go back, this whole thing with cashless bail is a disaster. So many problems came that we never had before. So they're watching us today, and if they don't learn their lesson, if they haven't studied us properly, because we're going to be very successful. I have zero doubt about that. It's going to be, it's a question of will it be really fast, like the border. You know, everyone said, they used to say, Biden used to say, I need legislation. I didn't get any legislation. I called up our people, and we did a great job. Tom Homan was great. As you know, our secretary did a great job. They did a great job. There's no games. They didn't play games. And we're going to have the same thing here. But then I'm going to look at New York in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see. It's going to go pretty quickly. And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man. And we have an incompetent governor there. Pritzker's an incompetent. His family threw him out of the business, and he ran for governor. And now I understand he wants to be president. But I noticed he lost a little weight, so maybe he has a chance. You know, you never know what happens. But Pritzker's a gross incompetent guy, thrown out of the family business. But when I look at Chicago and I look at LA, if we didn't go to LA 3 months ago, LA would be burning like the part that didn't burn. If he would have allowed the water to come down, which I told them about in my first term. I said, you're going to have problems. Let it come down. We actually sent in our military to have the water come down into LA. They still didn't want it to come down after the fires. But that was it. We have it coming down. But hopefully LA is watching. That mayor also. The city's burning. They lost like 25,000 homes. I went there the day after the fire. You were there. And I saw people standing in front of a burned down home. It was, their homes were incinerated. They weren't like, even the steel was literally, it was all warped and literally disintegrated because of the winds and the flame and the whole thing, like a blowtorch. They were standing on this beautiful day, maybe a couple of days after. We gave it a little time because what they had suffered, almost 25,000 homes. And you see what's happening now. They didn't give their permits. I went to a town hall meeting. I said, we're going to get you the federal permits, which are much harder. Almost immediately, Lee Zeldin is a star. He did an incredible job. They have all their federal permits. They don't have their city permits. And the mayor said to me, we think we could have them in 2 years. I was walking down the street and I met with firemen and police. And I was saying hello to many people that were standing in front of their homes with yellow tape. You can't go in. You can't go onto the lot. And those people wanted to start rebuilding the homes then and there. And the mayor said, we should be able to get them the permits within 2 years. I said, that's a shame. 2 years. Are you kidding? I'm going to get them the federal permit like almost immediately, 2 years. And she drew it back. Well, maybe 1 year. The place was booing her out of the place. They don't have their permits to build their homes. And now they're talking about putting, this is among the most beautiful areas was in the country. Now they're talking about putting low-income housing there. Can you believe this? I love low-income housing. I made money with low-income housing. I built low-income housing. I know more about low-income housing and luxury housing. I know about everything real estate. They want to replace some of those homes with low-income housing. They haven't gotten their permits yet. We've gotten all the federal permits, which are much tougher to get. And it was done almost immediately through Lee Zeldin and Federal Environmental. And I watched the other day, those people are angry. And now, you know, they had tremendous, they loved that area. They loved the whole big area, different places, but they loved it. It was all luxury stuff and beautiful stuff. And some wasn't that luxury, but the level of love for that neighborhood, their neighborhoods was incredible. And you know what? I watched people on television. They want to go. They want to leave. They've lost their spirit. They've lost their heart because the mayor's incompetent. And Gavin Newsom is incompetent. Got a good line of bullshit, but that's about it. He's incompetent. And you have Los Angeles is, you know, it's amazing. You know, I called, the first thing I did, I got the Olympics to go there. I was the one that got it. And by a rare thing that happened, I'll be the president. I was very upset because I got the Olympics there and I said, I won't be president when it comes, but bad things happened and illegal things happened, really illegal things happened. Now it turns out one good thing was I'm going to be the president for the Olympics for 2050, for 250, which is going to be fantastic, and also for the World Cup. So we have a lot of good things, and I hope 250 is going to be the 250th anniversary is going to be the best. But when I looked at those people, and I saw last night on television that they still don't have their permits, it's a disgrace what's happened in Los Angeles.
Thank you. The China tariff deadline is tonight, but do you plan to extend that?
We'll see what happens. China's been, we've been dealing very nicely with China, as you probably have heard. They have tremendous tariffs that they're paying to the United States of America. And we'll see what happens. They've been dealing quite nicely. The relationship is very good with President Xi and myself.
You mentioned your upcoming meeting with President Putin.
Yeah.
Tell us what you hope to get out of that and whether you consider inviting President Zelensky to join.
So you have to understand, this is a war that should have never happened. This is a war that wouldn't have happened if I were president. Would have never happened. It was the apple of his eye. I got along very well with President Putin. But if you look, under President Bush, they took a lot of territory. Under President Obama, they took a lot of territory. Under Biden, they essentially took the whole thing. You know, it's just a question of time. Under Trump, you know what they took? Nothing. I was the one that said, you can't build your pipeline. That was half built. I came in, I stopped the pipeline. It's called called Nord Stream 2. Nobody knows that, you know. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2. You might have not even heard it. Biggest pipeline in the world. I stopped it. I was not a friend of Russia, but I got along well with Putin. It's always good to get along with other countries if possible, but that doesn't mean you roll over like Biden did. Biden came in and he immediately approved the pipeline. I couldn't believe it. Then they say Trump wasn't tough on Russia. I wasn't tough. I was the toughest. Putin said, if you're not tough, I would hate like hell to see you visit. I stopped the biggest economic development job, the biggest job that Russia had ever built. I stopped it. It was dead. And this low IQ president came in and he let them build a pipeline and supply oil and gas all over Europe, you know? So this is really a feel out meeting a little bit. And President Putin invited me to get involved. He wants to get involved. I believe he wants to get it over with. Now, I've said that a few times, and I've been disappointed because I'd have like a great call with him, and then missiles would be lobbed into Kiev or some other place, and you'd have 60 people laying on a road dying. I said, that's cold. That's cold. But it's a violent war. 5,000 to 7,000 people a week are dying. And you know, there's nobody from here. They're all Russian and Ukrainian people, and some people from the cities, much smaller number, but still, those missiles do damage and they kill a lot of people, but mostly soldiers. And they're young soldiers, although in the case of Ukraine, they're getting much older. They're drafting 60-year-olds now. It's a terrible thing to witness, and I think I have an obligation. Look, this is Joe Biden's war. This is not my war. I made a deal with NATO a month ago. You covered it very accurately, actually. We don't pay anything anymore. You know, we're not paying anything. They are buying things from us, and NATO is paying us. I got it raised from 2% of GDP to 5%. And they're paying us for everything that we send. We're not paying. But Biden approved $350 billion. Europe has spent $100 billion. The money that's been spent and the death is incredible. It's the worst thing that's happened, by far the worst that's happened since World War II. So I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin, and I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war. You got to end it. And he wasn't going to mess with me. This war would have never happened. You know, we had a discussion about it one time, and we never had that discussion again. Would have never happened. And when the election was rigged, and then Biden took office, which was barely took office, the auto pen took office, bad things started happening. Bad things, stupid things were said, and it ended up in a war. And you know, and I don't believe this will happen anymore because I have that pretty well covered. This could end up in a third world war. This could have been a third world war. I don't think that's going to happen now. But I thought it was very respectful that the president of Russia is coming to our country as opposed to us going to his country or even a third party place. But I think we'll have constructive conversations. Then after that meeting, immediately, maybe as I'm flying out, maybe as I'm leaving the room, I'll be calling the European leaders who I get along with very well. And, you know, I have a great relationship, I think, with all of them. And I get along with Zelensky, but, you know, I disagree with what he's done. Very, very severely disagree. This is a war that should have never happened, wouldn't have happened. But I'll be speaking to Zelensky. The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both. So there's good and there's bad. But it's very complex because you have lines that are very uneven, and there'll be some swapping. There'll be some changes in land, and the word that they will use is, you know, they make changes. We're going to change the lines, the battle lines. Russia's occupied a big portion of Ukraine. They've occupied some very prime territory. We're going to try and get some of that territory back for Ukraine. But they've taken some very prime territory. They've taken largely ocean You know, in real estate, we call it oceanfront property. That's always the most valuable property. If you're in a lake, a river, or an ocean, it's always the best property. Well, Ukraine, a lot of people don't know that Ukraine was largely 1,000 miles of ocean. That's gone. Other than one small area, Odessa, it's a small area. There's just a little bit of water left. So I'm going to go and see the parameters. Now, I may leave and say, good luck, and that'll be the end. I may say this is not going to be settled. I mean, there are those that believe that Putin wanted all of Ukraine. I happen to be one of them, by the way. I think if it weren't for me, he would not be even talking to anybody else right now. But I'm going to meet with him. We're going to see what the parameters are. I'm then going to call up President Zelensky and the European leaders right after the meeting, yeah. And I'm going to tell them what kind of a deal. I'm not going to make a deal. It's not up to me to make a deal. I think a deal should be made for both. I think Russia has to get back into building their country. It's a massive country. I think they have 11 time zones, if you can believe it. It's a massive, it's by far, from the standpoint of land, it's by far the largest. They have tremendous potential in Russia to do well. They're not doing well. Their economy is not doing well right now because it's been very well disturbed by this. It doesn't help when the president of the United States tells their largest or second largest oil buyer that we're putting a 50% tariff on you if you buy oil from Russia. That was a big blow. And then they say, gee, he wasn't so tough. Nobody else would have done that. And I haven't stopped there. I mean, look, I was all set to do things far bigger than that, but I got a call that they'd like to meet, and I'm going to see what they want to meet about. I'd like to see a ceasefire. I'd like to see the best deal that could be made for both parties. You know, it takes two to tango, right? So ultimately, I'll have a meeting next week. I had a great relationship with him, considering the fact that, you know, I was not nice to him because of the pipeline. I ended the pipeline. I also gave the javelins. Do you ever hear of a javelin? Javelin is called a tank buster. They say that Obama gave them sheets and I gave them javelins. If it weren't for me, all those tanks that were destroyed at the first days of the war, because the tanks got stuck in the mud, some commander made a better, you know, they would have been in Kiev in 4 hours going down the highway. But a Russian general made a brilliant decision to go through the farmland instead. And they just had torrential rains, and the rains were so bad, and it was mud, and those tanks got stuck in the mud. I don't know who that general is, but knowing Vladimir, he's probably not around any longer because all those tanks were stuck in the mud, and they went along with the javelins. I gave them the javelins. You know that, right? I gave them javelins. They gave them sheets. But I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders, and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first, and then I'll call them after. And I may say, lots of luck, keep fighting, or I may say we can make a deal. I will tell you this. I've seen a poll coming out of Ukraine. 88% of the people would like to see a deal made. And if you go back 3 years, everybody was gung-ho for war. You know, everybody's gung-ho for war until you have it. It's an amazing thing. I had it with a couple of countries where I couldn't get a deal done with one particular country. And I just couldn't. The guy's great. He's a friend of mine. Great. Good leader. Tough as hell. I couldn't get the deal done. And then he went into war for a short period of time. You know where I'm talking about. First term. And it was nasty. Guys being killed all over the place. And he went through 1 week of war, and I was able to get the deal done. He said, this is nasty. Yes, please.
Yeah, just to follow up on what you were saying there. First of all, Volodymyr Zelensky is not invited on Friday?
He wasn't a part of it. I would say he could go, but he's gone to a lot of meetings. You know, he's been there for 3.5 years. Nothing happened.
And what is the definition?
I mean, do you want somebody that's been doing this for 3.5 years? What's the definition of a good deal? I'll tell you after I hear what the deal is, because there could be many definitions. You know, you're talking about a very large and complex situation. Now, I tell you, the war that I just settled with Azerbaijan and with, as you know, and Armenia was almost as complex as this one. having to do with
A
routes,
successful
trade.
meeting on Friday with Vladimir.
Well, we're going to have a meeting with Vladimir Putin. And at the end of that meeting, probably in the first 2 minutes, I'll know exactly whether or not a deal can be
How will
made.
you know that?
Because that's what I do. I make deals.
Mr.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to ask you two questions, one about China, one about Russia, if I could. On China, your administration agreed to send the most advanced or advanced NVIDIA and AMD chips.
No, obsolete. No.
Obsolete chip. Well, and then 15% of the
You
profits
mean the
come back.
20s? No. This is an old chip that China already has. And I deal with Jensen, who's a great guy, and NVIDIA. The chip that we're talking about, the H20, it's an old chip. China already has it in a different form, different name, but they have it. Or they have a combination of two will make up for it and even then some. Now, Jensen's a very brilliant guy. And Jensen also has a new chip, the Blackwell. Do you know what the Blackwell is? The Blackwell is super duper advanced. I wouldn't make a deal with that, although it's possible I'd make a deal, a somewhat enhanced in a negative way Blackwell. In other words, take 30% to 50% off of it. But that's the latest and the greatest in the world. Nobody has it. They won't have it for 5 years. But the H20 is obsolete. You know, it's one of those things, but it still has a market. So I said, listen, I want 20% if I'm going to approve this for you, for the country, for our country, for the U.S. I don't want it myself. You know, every time I say like 747, I want, yeah, for the Air Force. So I just wanted, so when I say I want 20, I want for the country. I only care about the country. I don't care about myself. And he said, would you make it 15? So we negotiate a little deal. So he's selling a essentially old chip that Huawei has a similar chip, a chip that does the same thing. And I said, good, if I'm going to give it to you, because they have a, they have a stopper, what we call a stopper, not allowed to do it. It's really known as a restrictive covenant. And I said, if I'm going to do that, I want you to pay us as a country something, because I'm giving you a release. I released them only from the H20. Now, on the Blackwell, I think he's coming to see me again about that, but that will be a unenhanced version of the big one. Like, I don't know if you know it, we will sometimes sell fighter jets to a country and we'll give them 20% less than we have. You know what I mean, right? That's the same.
So on Russia, do you see a time, Mr. President, when there could be normal trade between the U.S. and Russia? Should your meeting go well? Should there be peace?
I do. Yeah. Russia has a very valuable piece of land. If Vladimir Putin would go toward business instead of toward war, it's a warring nation. That's what they do. They fight a lot of wars. A friend of mine said Russia's tough because they just keep on fighting. They beat Hitler, so did we. And they beat Napoleon. They've been doing this for a long time. I asked a question to a very, very smart man that some people like and some people don't like. Viktor Orban, right? From Hungary, the head of Hungary. And he's in that same area and knows the two countries very well. I said, this was before Biden didn't do anything to get us out of it. He could have gotten us out of that. It would have never happened. I said, so can Russia be beaten by Ukraine? He looked at me like, what a stupid question. He said, Russia's a massive country and they win their country and they win their life through wars. They fight wars. That's what they do. He said, China beats you with trade. Russia beats you with war. It was a very interesting statement. China's not beating us with trade, not when I'm in charge, but they were beating Biden with trade, but they never beat us with trade. Don't forget, China had to pay $400 billion worth of tariffs when I was last time. That was last time. And if we didn't have COVID, all of this stuff we would be loaded. We're finding hundreds of billions of dollars of cash is pouring into our country now because of tariffs. And all we're doing is we're doing what they do to us. It's so beautiful to see it. they found last month, as you saw, $25 billion of excess cash flow. They're saying, where did it come from? I said, I'll tell you where it came from. It came from a place called tariffs, and we're doing very well. We're really doing well. But I expect to have a meeting with Putin that I think it'll be good, but it might be bad. And I'm here for one reason, to get rid of a war that somebody else started. Should have never happened. And if I could end it, great. Complex war, a lot of bad blood, But Zelensky's been there for 3.5 years. So if you put him in a room, now I will say this, ultimately, I'm going to put the two of them in a room. I'll be there or I won't be there. And I think it'll get solved. Yeah, please be.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Excuse me, I'm going to suggest, because do you have any other questions on DC? Because I don't want them to be, wait. These are incredible people. I don't want them to be standing up here on subjects that, does anybody have a question of them? And then you guys can leave. Okay, a question, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right.
And by the way, this is only on DC, and then they're going to leave because it's unfair to have them stand up here all day long. Brian,
I've got two questions for you. First, about DC. This is personal for me as well. Last year, I was robbed on the streets by one of these teenage thugs. Had a gun, got away with it. Let's talk about the effort that between law enforcement, prosecutors, and judges, because it's a recycling belt. Like, these kids go, they don't fear the police. They know it. If you talk about how we've got to get these judges and put these kids behind bars, right. Adult crimes deserve adult penalties. And my second question, I'll after you answer that, please.
You want me to answer?
Whoever wants to take it.
Okay. It's real. Do you want me to answer it? Here's the problem. Assuming that they're 17 years, older than 17 years old, I can get the case. If they're under 18 years of age, I can only get the case if it's murder, rob one, rape, or even if they shoot a gun but don't kill you, I can't get it. So the law has to be changed. As the president said, cashless bail. That has to be changed. All right. Then, even assuming I get the case, I get jurisdiction, I get a conviction, the DC Council has given the judges the ability to give probation on shootings. And so then it's up to them. All of these things, the Youth Rehabilitation Incarceration Reduction Act, and now they want to seal records. So if we work hard, we get a conviction, they want to wipe it out. So that needs all to be changed.
Okay, Mr. Question.
Pam, would you answer that also?
Yeah, and just back to that topic. Let's be clear, though. We're going to charge them, and we're going to track every single thing they do throughout every step of the court process and report back to you and let all of you know what's happening to them. Because the people who are prosecuting them, the judges who are trying them, they also need to be held accountable.
Mr. President, you're also making comments. This is the most people we've ever seen in this briefing.
I've never seen
ever, right?
Yes. I've never seen any. Where's Caroline? Where's my superstar? Caroline. Is Caroline in the back? Where's Caroline? Come here, Caroline. Come here, Caroline. Come here. Is she doing a good job, by the way? Come here. Is this the largest crowd that you've ever seen?
This is definitely the most packed briefing, and I think all of you would agree. I think it's why we need to build a ballroom.
Mr. President, I have a better idea.
All right, Brian, go ahead.
My question is this. You're building the big, beautiful ballroom.
Yeah.
Could we build a big, beautiful briefing room, updated technology,
No.
more seats?
I don't want to do that. I don't want you to be comfortable. So no, I don't want to make life comfortable. So look. Let's just do this. Let's do this. It's going to be a big thing. We're going to Russia. That's going to be a big deal. What happens. I'll let you know what happens. You'll be the first to know. I'll be calling the European leaders. I'm going with totally. I mean, we have a lot of talks. They're great people. They're great leaders, actually, and they want to get back. Honestly, as one of them said, I've OD'd on trying to settle Ukraine. They've OD'd, meaning they've overdosed on the settlement of Ukraine. Not a nice expression, but boy, is it accurate. They're tired of it. They want to get back to spending money on their countries. You know, Biden gave them $350 billion. Europe gave $100 billion. It should be much more than that. Shouldn't have been that kind of, they should have had equalization, but they didn't. But you know what? Still a lot of money. They want to get back to building their own countries. They really want it resolved. My relationship with the European leaders, as you saw, is extremely good. It's perfect. It's beautiful. Wait. And we're going to try, I'll be in touch with them. I have 5 of them call me. You think it's easy. There are a lot of European leaders, but they rely on me, very much rely on me. If it wasn't for me, this thing would never get solved until the last person breathing is dead.
Would you talk to them before?
Yeah, I did. I'm talking to them right now. So I'm talking to the European leaders. I'll be talking to President Zelensky. I'm going to get everybody's ideas. I go into that thing fully loaded right up there, and we're going to see what happens. Now, I think one of 2 things is going to happen. It's going to be a good meeting, and we'll go a step further. We'll get it done. I'd like to see a ceasefire very, very quickly. Very quick. I'd like to see it immediately, but I'd like to see it very quickly. And we're going to be dealing with the European leaders, and we're going to be dealing with President Zelensky, and hopefully we're going to have a great success. As far as this, what we did today, and I think you were here for DC more so than even Russia, because Russia will be, we have a couple of days to go, but the Russia is going to be very interesting. But to me, what is very exciting, and we're going to take back our capital. We're going to make it beautiful again, but we're going to make it, more importantly, safe again. It's going to be so safe. It's going to be a model. And then we'll look at other cities also, but other cities are studying what we're doing. And you have some capable people in other cities. They can do it too. But we have a great group of professionals. We're going to have a safe, beautiful capital, and it's going to happen very quickly. Thank you all. Thank you all very much.
Decision today, Mr. President.
How long will the takeover of DC police last?
We'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll have another
briefing. We'll see the National Guard on their streets.
All of them.
Will we get more prisons out of this, sir?